You're listening to the Real Estate Runway podcast, powered by Quattro Capital, where we are all about alternative business and investment strategies to help you amplify life and maximize wealth. Here's your host, the recovering engineer turned multifamily investor, Chad Sutton.
All right, Real Estate Runway listeners, today we have a special guest. All my guests are special, but this one I work with almost every day. Her name is Sarah Sullivan. She's the founder of SuGo Capital based in California. And Sarah is an educator. She has worked at the highest ranks in Silicon Valley. She's actually been in the circus industry. So that's going to be a fun one for later in the episode. But she primarily spends her time today educating investors on how to invest in real estate the way that her and I do together. She's a habitual partner of mine. We have co-sponsored many deals together, but first and foremost, she has a giver's heart, and she is of the opinion that this stuff should not be a secret left to the wealthy. It should be given to everyone to build their own wealth. And if you're not educated in something, you should never invest in it, by the way. That's her mantra. So without further ado, here is Sarah Sullivan. I hope you enjoy. Here we go. All right, Real Estate Runway family, welcome to another episode of the Real Estate Runway podcast. I'm your host, Chad Sutton, and I'm joined today with the amazing Sarah Sullivan of SuGo Capital. Sarah is owner and founder of SuGo Capital, which is an investment company that connects investors to strong passive income via real estate. Sarah's passion in life is sharing her knowledge about real estate, investing in general, and helping people advance on their wealth building path. She went from a Silicon Valley 9-to-5 full-time real estate investor in less than 2 years, and she is the host of the Confident Investor Summit. SuGo Capital currently has over 1,400 units and over $140 million in assets under management. Wow. Talk about some stats. Sarah, friend, welcome to the show. How are you doing on this beautiful Wednesday afternoon?
It's awesome. Thanks for having me here, Chad. It's really great to be here. And I'm super passionate about helping people in their wealth building journey. So happy to hear what you'd like me to share with all this great audience. Thanks, audience, for being here.
Yes. So for those of you who do not know, Sarah and I are actually co-sponsors of multiple deals that we have done together with Quattro Capital and SuGo Capital. So we have a lot of experience working with each other. I have had the blessing of watching how Sarah has developed the relationships with the limited partners and investors that she has come along with her in her deals. And it's just amazing the number of repeats investors that you have, the number of people who are just so loyal to you because of the truth and results that you provide, and the education. So what I really love to focus on today, after we hear about your awesome background, because I really want to hear about that 9-to-5 to full-time investor shift in 2 years real quick. But after we get into that, I really want to spend some time going through, as a limited partner, as an investor, should I be being sold in the beginning, or should this be more of an educational process? Like, how to know when you're being sold versus when you're seeing a good investment. And I know this is really something we can spend a lot of time talking about. But before we do, tell me about you. Tell me about how did you go from 9-to-5 Silicon Valley, corporatepreneur to full-time real estate investor in less than 2 years?
Yeah. So it was less than 2 years of taking action, but it was over 10 years of educating myself. And that is
Wait. So you mean it takes 10 years to become an overnight success?
Right? What I mean to say is a lot of people out there listen and absorb and create dreams and hear of other people achieving what they're dreaming about. But unless you take action, you're never going to reach those dreams. And so that's why I say that. It was 8 years of me studying real estate and going to real estate conferences and dabbling in single family home rentals and losing a lot of money there, spending a lot of time there in that space and continuing to learn. And it wasn't until a shift into multifamily a few years ago and some really, really clear goals that helped me shift my life. Incredible shifts in my life. So I encourage you, all of you listening, you have to take action on what you're listening to. Otherwise, it doesn't affect your life, right? So yes, and I'm really passionate. A lot of my education is working with investors on how to create a plan of action to step into investing, because oftentimes ignorance, it's not a bad word. It just means you haven't learned it yet, or you don't know it yet, leads to fear or hesitancy or non-action. And so a lot of times I work with people to develop an education plan so that then they're totally comfortable when the time comes to make an investment and they can step over the line and begin wealth building. So that kind of pairs everything that we're going to talk about. Backing up more to me. So I did start studying real estate about 10 years ago. And I went through Rich Dad University and, took all these courses with all these gurus. And it all seemed a bit like overwhelming because I was looking at all of the options and I was kind of dabbling in all the options. And it was a few years ago, one night, this is my turning point, where, I was dabbling in real estate. So I had some single family homes I was managing. I had 2 young kids, 2 and 4 years old. I had a great Silicon Valley, director of engineering job. And I was dropping my kid. Yeah.
I'm watching the air quotes for those of you who are listening.
Yeah. I was dropping my kids off at 7 a.m. at the before care at preschool and picking them up after the aftercare had closed, at like 6:05. They're waiting on the corner with their backpacks in the dark, little kids, daycare workers, like, you're late again, mom. And I was just like so stressed out and running so strung out. And I put him to bed one night and I was not a nice mom at all. And I saw myself, I had this like out of body experience and I viewed myself in my life. And I was like, ooh, I'd be real embarrassed if anyone saw me right now, the way I'm acting to my poor little children who hardly even see their mom. And it was like, it hit me. It hit me really hard that my life was not this beautiful, successful fairy tale that I'd worked really, really hard for. And so it was in that moment that I went to my husband and I said, we need to change some things, like seriously and drastically. And we'd both been dabbling in real estate together and learning. And I said, real estate's the way for me. I know it. But we need to take severe action so that in 3 years, I am completely out of corporate so that I can drop the kids off at school. I can pick them up at 2:00. We can spend the afternoons together. They know me, I know them. And so we made a really, really specific plan. And for a year, I got up at 4:30 in the morning. I learned more. I took action. I learned more. I took action. And I sacrificed a lot in that year. And it didn't feel good. But you know what? Sometimes it's worth it. Like 1 year of really uncomfortable turned into the next year of super comfortable, like, 5xing my income and cutting my work hours in half. That's great, right? Flexibility to, run my life the way that I want to. And so, a lot of people want to do that in real estate and they step into real estate for that reason. And I just encourage you all, if you're listening and you want to be in real estate, make super, super clear goals for yourself and take action. I teach my investors to make 90-day plans. You do that at work, right? Why not make that for your education around investing? 90-day plans, goals, take action. It can happen. It can work for you. So that's my story. And now, like you said, the Confident Investor Summit and educational events, I put those on, and that's a way for investors to come to get intense education. It's all free, and really learn about different types of investing in order to select what works for you. Because what works for me might not work for you, and vice versa. So I love giving that education, and then from there, teaching people how to do diligence and step into those different types of investing.
That's just fantastic. And what I heard there is, wow, you had an out of body experience and you saw yourself, right? I mean, how many of us just need to stop what we're doing and just look at ourselves? You might be going towards a job you hate. You might be in a career you hate because the money's good, or none of the above, but if you don't like what you have, change it, make a plan, do it a little bit at a time, take bite-sized chunks and change it. You can read all the books in the world. And if I'm going to let out the truth here, I'm going to have a virtual background here. Behind me is a big bookshelf of books that I looked at for years before I actually read them, and then I read them and I did nothing with it. But now once I'm doing something with it is when, like you, I have 5-10x my income over the last couple of years, and it can happen so quickly. So, wow, I commend you for that. I love that. You examined your life and just decided, this is what I want it to look like. And this is what it looks like. And we need a plan to get from A to B, and you executed, right? That's
yeah.
inspiring.
And then Yeah. And helping other people to do that. So even extending, my mom, on Friday, she called me, she retired because she started investing in our syndications. She's in your syndications, Chad. She's in other syndications that I'm part of. And, 2 years ago, she was like, oh, that sounds too good to be true. I am not going to touch that, the 10-foot pole. This sounds like a scam. And it took me, really explaining it in depth. And so I think that's why I'm really good at explaining it now, is because I walked my mom through it and I was so passionate, like, Mom, this is a way to retirement and that the stock market can't do for you. And, security that the stock market can't do for you. So yeah, share with people as well, bring them along.
Let's talk about that, because that is a giver's heart right there. And what makes your group and our group and very few groups out there different from a lot of the, we'll say, institutional money who just wants you as another number in their deal, right? Is you care about the people you're working with, and you've developed a sense of being able to explain this complex stuff simply and educate people. Let's get into that a little bit. The Confident Investor Summit is one way that you do that, but this, your primary function is building relationships and educating our investor base to help them make the right decision, because every deal is not the same. Not every deal is right for every investor. And maybe it doesn't even fit the plan that they want to get to. There's many ways to invest in real estate that have different benefits, that may not be right for every person. So let me just kind of pass the mic to you, and let's just kind of talk through your strategy and how you take what and start to help people, do better for themselves and build their own wealth.
Yeah. So the first step is to connect with them emotionally. So whenever I start an educational event, we start out with, the aha moment that I had. I try to invoke an aha moment in people. So take a look at your life. Where is it today? Is this your dream life? If not, where's the gap? And, let's shoot for something really tangible in the future and talk about how we can get you there. So if you guys are, real estate investors and you're looking to bring partners along, bring investors along, you're looking to raise capital, this is how I do it. And I've raised tens of millions of dollars in 2021 so far using this strategy. So I really get people into their hearts and into their vision. So can they visualize, extra vacations to Europe per year? Can they visualize retiring 5 or 10 years earlier? And then we look at those numbers. What is it going to take to achieve that? And look at what they have and see what kind of real estate investment can get them there. Some people need to be really way more active in their real estate investing, like fix and flip or wholesaling, because they don't already have a chunk of cash to work with. Some people have a huge chunk of cash and it's sitting there and it's not doing any work and they don't want to do any work. So passive investing, perhaps syndications, is really great for them. So teaching people how to identify their goal with investing. Because a lot of people say, is this a good investment? Well, it depends on what your goal is, right? And what you have to start with and the time frame you're looking to achieve that goal. So really walking people through a process is what I do in the beginning. And we look at over 15 different types of real estate investing in order to say, this is good if this is your goal, this is good if this is where you're at. And we go through that. And then if people decide, hey, a syndication fits what I'm looking to do, it would help me achieve my goals, then I take them into what is a syndication, how to analyze it, how to, a lot of these terms, PPM, LP, preferred return, hurdles, waterfall, what does all that mean? Equity split, okay, what is this? I've never heard of this. So I just educate on terms, on structure, on things. And then I teach them how to do due diligence. So how to do due diligence on me, how to do due diligence on Chad, how to do due diligence on my different partnerships. And then why it's so important to pick a market and how I do due diligence on a market. And so this is good for people who are going to be doing their own investing actively. They need to know this, right? And also people who are looking to passively invest. It's a credibility play. They know, okay, Sarah knows how to do due diligence. So if she chooses this market, it's probably going to be a good one. And then I teach them how to do the analysis on the actual property and read the PPM and analyze the PPM, almost to a detriment, because sometimes when we go to have an offering, they're like, in section 8.4, line 3, it says this, can you help me? And I'm like, Chad, we got another one.
And I have to say, Sarah has some of the most well-equipped investors, because I've had lengthy conversations about legal jargon that people usually don't look at. So good job, to your detriment, but
yeah.
But they know what they're getting into. They know what they're getting into, right? That's great.
Exactly. They know what they're getting into and they understand and they're comfortable. So educating people when there's not a choice on the table is really key. So there's something called lizard brain. I don't know if you guys have heard this, but in the financial world, in the money world, it's a thing that, if you have a decision to make and it evokes an emotion in you, then you're not able to make a rational decision. So like children, when they're crying and you say, calm down, like it doesn't work. Well, it's similar with adults when you're trying to like push an investment on them and they don't understand it and they're just trying to understand it and you're trying to get them to say yes. Like it doesn't work. It doesn't feel good. If they don't understand it, they're going to say no, back away. Oh my gosh. But if you try to get them to understand what you're offering first, like your model or your type of investment, and they get really comfortable when they're not trying to make a decision. So they understand the benefits, they understand the taxes situation, they understand, everything about it, and they're calm while they're learning. Don't get them in an emotional state of trying to make a decision while they're learning. And then at the end of learning, they're like, whoa, I learned all this. I am so excited about investing in this type of thing because I know how to do my due diligence. I know that I trust you. I know that you're going to bring me something good. And so they're like, when's the next thing, Sarah? When's the next thing? Like literally, I get emails every day. When's the next thing? When's the next thing? I'm like, hold on. Let me finish due diligence with Chad and the team. So this morning I was like, all right, those of you who are waiting, we got something coming up. But really getting into teaching while not in an emotional state, then they're going to start asking you to invest with you instead of you trying to get them to invest with you. And I mean, that's like sales in anything, right? I mean, if someone's really pushing something on you, you back away, like the used car salesman. And if they're not pushy, you come to them with your question. So you just got to mimic what would feel good to you.
That is some amazing gold right there. And folks, if you heard nothing else, if you're being sold, walk away from the investment because it's probably not good for you. It probably doesn't match your strategy. And if you don't understand it, you do not need to be dropping 5 or 6 figures into something ever, right? Number one, there's 2 rules that Warren Buffett taught me. Number 1 is don't lose money. Number 2 is refer to rule number 1. And his saying is don't ever invest in something you don't understand because then you will lose money if you do that, right?
Yep. Yeah,
so it could be the best investment in the world, guys, but if you don't understand it, you will make a mistake, right?
Yeah. And there's extended mistakes. So, like, are you using the wrong entity to invest? Because maybe it's great for you to use your IRA. Maybe it's great to use a trust. Maybe it's great to invest cash in your name. There's so many ways to invest. So even if it's like, ooh, this is a good investment, then there's another step. There's a tax strategy step. There's an entity planning step. There's a lot of things to consider. There's timing, there's bonus depreciation. So just because, this is a good investment, you also need to invest in it well and the right way. So yeah, exactly. Like you said, Chad.
Yeah. And another point that I want to draw back to that you made early on was talking about understanding the investment and understanding which investment is right for you. Like you said, you said 15, I'd say there's hundreds of different ways to invest in real estate,
for sure.
And variations of how to do it. Everything from ATM investing, which I do consider real estate investing, all the way to warehousing and everything in between. Right. But think about it this way. Someone can show you, I like examples. I have to talk in examples because I'm a simple man. Right. So example A or exhibit A, someone hands you something that says, I'm going to 5x your money in 3 years. But the key here is it's a development and you're not going to see a dime off of that for 5 years. Like you will put money in and in 5 years, you'll get 5x back. Great. Well, if your goal is to leave your job in 2 years, like Sarah just, talked about doing, that doesn't help you, right? It'll be great down the road, but that doesn't help you achieve your goal to be able to compound on that. So you have to understand not only the entrance and exit plan, but how it benefits you along the way. And is it your primary question, my coach, Trevor McGregor, has always taught me, your primary question needs to be, am I making progress? Well, in that case, that is not making progress towards your goal. If your goal is cash flow over 2 years, right?
Yep. And it doesn't mean it's a bad investment, because that could be the perfect investment for a 35-year-old who's using their IRA to invest for 30 years from now, because I don't care about cash flow at all in that situation.
I can't touch it for 30 years anyway, right?
Right. So a lot of people say, which is the better, if I have two things I'm working on, which is the better one? But it's, exactly that. It depends on your goals.
Yes.
And also there's even things like, two things could have the same return structure, and one is in Colombia and one is in Georgia, and you already have 5 syndications in Colombia. Okay. Well, it is a super great market. I have a lot of apartments there, but I'm a huge fan of diversification. So if the return structure is totally the same, one's not better than the other by any other criteria, I might say go to Georgia, just because you get some diversity in your location, maybe diversity in your team. So there's a lot of things to consider. And I always tell people, if I don't think it's the right investment for them, I'll tell them, don't invest in this one. Doesn't mean it's not good. It just means it might not be the right one for you. And so I think that people, when I tell them, no, this isn't good for you, they're like, oh, okay, well, she tells me no sometimes. Then when she says yes, I believe her.
Yeah, and that's so important, because just like you said, not everything is for everyone. And the last thing that a good sponsor wants is people with investor remorse. All right. You've heard of buyer's remorse. It's no fun when someone gets into something, realizes that it's not good for them, and then the phone calls start happening and they're scared. You don't want people to be scared, So I love what you're saying here. This is really, the only reason any of us are doing this, we've been doing our own deals before we started working with private equity and limited partnership investors. But we've learned a way to, it gives us all economies of scale. We all do better when we all buy a bigger property, because we can hire better teams. We get better economies of scale on CapEx. Everything is better, right? Mm-hmm. But we've also learned that we can help with the movement. There is a movement today of the average American person is actually taking an interest in their financial acumen, right? Yes. Gone are the days of handing over your whole wealth to a pension plan or to a mutual fund manager and hoping for the best, because it doesn't work anymore, right? So it's amazing that not only do we have an opportunity to help others, but with people like Sarah Sullivan here, you can educate people in the right way so that they can help themselves properly. And also, it doesn't hurt to build credibility with each other either, right?
Yeah. And, there's so many people who, because of, especially since COVID, but even before, all the online education that's out there, like the wealth of knowledge that can be accessed by people now that maybe wasn't true 10 or 15 years ago. I think that is also leading to what you're saying, where people are like, oh my gosh, these opportunities are out there. Well, yeah, what my wealth advisor is telling me, this is actually not the best thing for me. Sometimes it is, you guys, sometimes it is. And some of you have great wealth advisors and financial planners and all that. And some of you have people investing at 5% for you, or 7 or 10%. And that's not going to get you anywhere fast, for sure. So it's so important to learn for yourself. But then, like we said earlier, take action so you can actually make a change in your life.
Yes. And on that note, I think my favorite thing about what we have today, take this podcast, for example, right? When I got started in real estate and when I was learning to be an engineer before this, right, I didn't have access to everything that we do today, or even as good as we did 5-10 years ago, right? So there were 5 or 10 years ago as good as we have it today. There's a book on my bookshelf that I read by one of my early mentors. And when I read it and I started doing this for myself, I learned, oh my gosh, this book was written in 1995 and the strategies are out of date by about 15 years, right? So the strategies in principle are right, but the timeliness of the data is so far off that it's not applicable anymore. Gosh. We have access to podcasts and YouTube channels and things where you get real-time information from people who are doing this or succeeding or changing their stars in the way that they want. And you don't have to wait for them to write an autobiography in 35 years to see how they did it. So pretty cool, if you ask me.
Yeah, definitely. And something else I would say on that note is pay attention to the people who have actually gotten to where you want to be. because there are so many naysayers out there. And I ran into so many naysayers along my journey. And I just said, but I know people are super successful doing this. And I'm going to hold on to that. I'm going to hold on to that light that I know there's these people that I see are super, super successful. And I just kept my eye on the successful people and let the unsuccessful people who were saying, you know, this isn't going to work for one reason or another, just slough into my background.
I love it. That is so fantastic. Wow. Well, this has been an incredible episode, Sarah. Thank you so much for coming on and just talking about how you help your investor base and how you educate them first, and warning people that if you're being sold, walk away, because you probably aren't ready for that investment if you're having to be convinced. So fantastic. But before I let you go, Sarah, there's a couple of questions that you get to answer that I ask every guest on the show. So you ready for this?
Right.
All right. So we at Quattro like to understand everyone's superpower. What is it that makes you amazing? What is your most valuable skill in this industry, do you think?
Yeah, I think it's being able to teach. So something about me I didn't mention is that I was a teacher in a circus school. So I opened, with a friend, I opened a circuit school in Silicon Valley, and I taught people trapeze, aerial arts, partner acrobatics. And I mean, if people mess up, they could be paralyzed and stuff like that. So I had to be really, really clear. And I had to really make sure that people understood what I was saying, because if they didn't and they got it wrong, they could get severely injured. And that's really similar with money. If you're trying to talk to someone about money and investing and they don't get it and they do it wrong, they could get severely injured financially. And so I think all those years of practice of teaching people while their physical health was on the line, now their financial health is on the line. And it's that same diligence, like I need to make sure that they get it completely right and don't make a mistake. That same passion has carried forward. So I think that's one of the big differences.
So I'm looking at my calendar over here because I've known you for how many years now? And I did not know that you used to teach in a circus. That is something we have never talked about, Sarah. So we're going to have a phone call after this.
Yep. So Theo and I did partner acrobatics, and we taught that together. And then I taught the aerial art. So when we lived in Europe, I went to circuit school.
That's really cool. Okay. You learn something new about your friends every day, folks.
Yeah. Unfortunately, with COVID, we haven't been able to do it recently because all the indoor spaces are closed. But when we get back to it, I'll send you some footage of our performances.
Fantastic. Okay. Well, we have now heard a lot of reasons why you are awesome and you've changed your stars and everything, but I know you had some failure along the way. What is your biggest failure to date, and what did it teach you?
Yes. So single family home investing is amazing for some people. For me, it was not. So I live in California. So I was investing outside of California because California doesn't cash flow for anything. And I wanted to invest in emerging markets. So I chose markets that were far away. I didn't do due diligence on the property management company. And I got burned really bad because they did not do a good job. They were like, oh, you got a few homes I'm not really going to pay attention to. You're all the way in California. Well, you can't get a hold of me. We lost so much money because we didn't do due diligence on the property management company. So now that's a stickler of mine. Like, who's the property management company? Because, Sarah can be great, Chad can be great, but we're at our house every day. We're not at the apartment building every day. The property management company is. Every time I've lost money in real estate, it's because of the property management company. And so a lot of people don't do due diligence on the property management company. They're like, oh, Sarah and Chad are great. Oh, the property looks great. The market looks great. Part of doing due diligence on the team is the property management company. So everyone, whether you're in single family home rentals, whether you're in commercial, whatever you're going to invest in, that property management company, like, go above and beyond to like where you feel stupid asking some of these questions, because they're the people who are going to make it or break it for you.
Wow. And we were on a call just this morning going through a due diligence go, no go on our next project. And what was Sarah picking on? She was picking on our already amazing property management company and questioning. So I see it. Very smart though. Very smart.
Yep.
Fantastic. Fantastic. Okay. And last question. I believe that you have an ebook out there.
Yes.
Or a course or something.
Yes. So it's 10 steps to passive investing from a 9-to-5er who quit their job. So I don't know how you're able to share that link, but if you share it, it's really quick. It's not like a big old thing. It's more of like, read it in 10 minutes, do a checklist, but it's how to step into taking action. So it's the steps that I took. It's the steps that I take all my investors through. When I do 3-day workshops, it's the base, it's the foundation for those workshops. So yeah, I am happy if you guys read it, take action, email me if you have questions. My email is on there. So I'd be happy to talk to anyone about those steps.
Fantastic. And folks, that will be in the show notes. Just scroll down and you'll see that link right there. Fantastic. Well, Sarah, thank you so much for coming on the podcast. This has been an incredible and insightful episode looking into you as a person and how you help others learn how to invest the way that you and I do. How can the listeners get in touch with you should they so choose?
The best way is my website, SuGoCapital.com. There's a space at the bottom. You can sign up to be, put your name in. You'll get invited to all the events that I have. Also, phone number and email are on my website. I'm not afraid of people just reaching out, calling me, emailing me. That's what I'm here for. So SuGoCapital.com.
Fantastic. All right, Real Estate Runway listeners, this has been another action-packed episode of the Real Estate Runway podcast. Until next time, over and out.
We hope this episode was insightful and brought value to your day. If so, please be awesome and leave us a 5-star review. Find out how Team Quattro can help you at thequattroway.com. Until next time, this is the Real Estate Runway podcast.